set.
Set Ready Ball, the Jet Life Podcast. This is Richie, the big noise of Beepball Flores, and I'm back here with introducing up to bat number 15, Kevin Simpson.
All right, my name is Kevin Simpson. I wear number 15 for the San Antonio Jets. I'm the starting pitcher and assistant coach. I guess there are a lot of Jet Life moments that stick out, but I guess one thing that people may not understand is Jet Life isn't always the easiest. It doesn't always go as planned. There's always something going on, and I guess after our first tournament, after we were knocked out of the tournament, we ended up at a Texas Roadhouse having dinner, and we're all we're just kind of bummed, and it's getting quiet, and a waitress drops a plate, and it just smashes. It makes this huge racket, and Rene Almanza, he yells out, "Jet Life!" And that pretty much that Jet Life moment. It was early on in what we were doing, but it kind of summarized, everything. It's kind of a sacrifice. It takes a lot of work, and it doesn't always go as planned, but it's always been a lot of fun. Brod's wife, Claudia, early on, she would show up to practices with tacos, man. Pizza and egg tacos and carne asada.
Yeah.
So man, we were up there taking taco breaks right there in the middle of practice. That was, I think that's, the family aspect of Jet Life is probably the most important to me. That, look, if you embrace the family portion of that, then everything else will fall into place.
Now, Beat Baseball is definitely made up of really awesome families who kind of have blindness in their life, or marry somebody who has that, or whatever it is. And I think right now, between the Simpsons, the Arambulas, and the Cox family and the Borregos out there, and the Rodriguezes, we've got some good family making it happen for Jet Life for sure, dude. It's much appreciated.
And and I'm glad you said that, because that's the thing that I think is the common denominator for teams that stay around for a while. Is family. If you look at the successful teams, they're family based, and man, we are right there. I'm glad you said that too, because sometimes we get, I think, if they don't know who we are and what we do from the outside, it's easy to look at the San Antonio Jets and say, hey, it's an all-star team, but it's not. We've never really actively recruited players from other teams, but if they fall apart and they have nowhere to go, we'll gladly accept them, if they love Beepball and they can get along. I think it's the family portion of the Jet Life that attracts other players as well. And look, I know people will say differently, and they'll say, look, they're just putting together an all-star team. That's not the deal. Maybe, maybe they can get their teams family-based and grow those teams, just like we have.
Most definitely, the family dynamic is where it's at. And speaking on that, since you got your start because you had a big brother who was blind, tell us a little bit of the history. Did you guys start Beat Baseball together? Did y'all go to the first World Series together, or how did that go?
No, he's got a few years on me. He went to 2 World Series that I did not go to. He went to the 1983 World Series in Minneapolis and 1984 in Albuquerque. I didn't go to the World Series until 1985. That was my first World Series, and I haven't missed one since. I guess this will be my 35th consecutive, if I got the math right. But yeah, he's got 2 years on me. Now, having said that, man, I threw thousands of pitchers, to my brother in the backyard informally, messing around before we ever, played in a real game. It was just something that we did for fun. He would pitch to me, and I would pitch to him.
And then when did you get your first duty as pitcher?
My first World Series as a pitcher was in 1986.
Right.
We were going to the World Series to put in a bid to have the World Series in Austin, to host it there. You can always pick up players that are non-roster. So Beaumont, one of our competitors in Texas, they picked up myself, and not my brother, but Chris Fenton, a teammate of ours. And so we got to play with the Beaumont Beepers. That was my first World Series pitching duty, man. It was a lot of fun.
So then how did you start, and when did you start the Blackhawks? What are some of the similarities to that, to starting the Jets?
Yeah, actually, we started the Austin Blackhawks in 1985 at a hotel room at the World Series in Minneapolis. And there were three of us that were there from Austin to support the Fort Worth team. My brother, Chris Fenton, and Leonard Walker. And we talked about it. We were like, yeah, let's do it, man. I mean, that's how it started in 1985 with some dudes in a hotel room. And Wayne was, he was speaking up for me and said, look, I'm telling you, man, Kevin can pitch. He can do this. And it didn't take any convincing for Leonard and Chris to join in. So by the time we got back to Austin, and the funny thing is, I mean, the similarities between when we started the Austin Blackhawks and the San Antonio Jets is it started with an agreement between, some players. Let's do this. And man, we had nothing. We had a baseball glove that I owned, and that was it, man. We had no money. We didn't have a single dead ball, much less a working one. Not a base, not a bat, nothing, man. And I was 16, man. I didn't have a job. I was still in high school.
Yeah.
So, and it kind of took off from there. I mean, similarly, the Jets were started in the same way after the World Series in 2015. Once we got back home, we talked about it with Zach and Axel, and I said, I think this is something we need to do, man. We need to start a team in San Antonio because the Austin team, it's so strong. They had everything. They had great coaching. They had great volunteer support, great fundraising set up already. I mean, that's a strong team. That it's not going anywhere. So it was time to start a team in San Antonio. But dude, just like back in 1986, we didn't have anything. We didn't have a ball. We didn't have a bat, a base. We just had an idea and a love for the game, and that was all we had.
So how about highlight some of the lessons learned, some of the struggles of moving from the Austin Blackhawks and developing the Jets organization?
Well, yeah, I learned an awful lot about it. I learned how much work my mom does and Mariano does there for Austin and my brother, and how much dedication and effort it takes to not only start it but to sustain it. And you can't. It's not something you can do by yourself, and if you do, you're not going to be able to do it for very long. So as we've grown our organization, and we've got a tremendous amount of help from the extended family. I mean, Eddie Rodriguez, Janie, Claudia, and all the brothers and cousins. Now Brenda Borrego's really stepping up, and Axel's family, cousin, brother. I mean, everybody's showing up, trying to shoulder, to help share the load. And this is definitely by far our most successful year of fundraising here in 2019, and most of that's due to the work that Brenda's done. I just started a new job in January, so it's kind of it's a lot. It's unexpected, and anyway, so we've had a lot of family and friends step up, people that love Beepball and believe in what we're doing, and they've put in a lot of work to make us successful. From a competition standpoint, early on, with the San Antonio Jets, we had Richie Flores, we had Zach and Axel, and then we had some dudes we didn't know, and I thought it was going to be easier to get it started, because I think you need a group of experienced people to start Beepball. It certainly would help, and I didn't want to just get us on the map. I wanted to get us, I wanted to have a really successful, first year team. But it took a while, for people to sign up until Dave Benny said, yeah, I think I would like to be a Jet, and Jason Ackes. They really took a chance, because they were established players in their own community. But, due to, Jason Ackes didn't have a team to play with, and DB, I think, the team that he was on had just fallen apart, RHI. So it was perfect timing with those guys. And I don't know if we could have done it without them. And as a matter of fact, I was telling Zach and Axel here locally, I was like, guys, I'm going to do this, and I'm all in, but I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know how good we're going to be. I have no idea if we're going to be successful, but I'm going to do it anyway. So look, if you guys want to go play on like a top team, I understand, because I'm not sure we're going to be in that mix, but we're going to work until we get there. Anyway, both of them were like, nah, man, we're all in, man. We're going to do this with you. And, probably the biggest moment was when Aaron Almanza and Renee Almanza showed up, and they were all in, man. They were really competitive. They were fantastic athletes, and they're a lot of fun to be around. And that really solidified us as a beepball team. And in Austin, we had such a large group. When we started that, there were so many players that were visually impaired or athletes that were really wanted to be a part of what we were doing in Austin. I mean, we had to kind of limit that back then. And the difference is, here, I thought it would be a little bit easier to get locals, involved. Ricky Rizzi, a nice find. He's a former baseball player when he was young, before he lost his useful vision. Man, he's a competitor. He's athletic. He can run. He can hit. Man, he's got an ear for the defense. So yeah, that's a good pickup right there.
Yeah, man. To witness, the careers of Axel and Zach as they started as teenagers, and just kind of now to be part of seeing their leadership grow with the Jets under your tutelage is really awesome to be a part of. And I think we're locally driven as much as we can be, and we get all the help from our friends who we can give them the chance to play beepball with us. But yeah, I'd like to talk to you now. You have been around for a while. History in beepball means a lot to you, and I've been able to hear a lot of your stories. So I want you to share some of the beepball names that maybe folks might not have heard of. All of us know the Eric Mazaregos, the Steve Stambaugh, some of the Bam Bams, the Frank, Big Frank the Tank, Fazio. Yeah, why don't you give us a few best there ever was, best there ever will be, Simpson All-Stars.
Okay, well, look, I mean, as far as, and I've told this story a million times. I don't know if it's somebody that nobody's heard of, but Jeff Stevens, he was a fantastic hitter. That dude could just crush the ball, and he hit such a high buck. Yeah, he had a nickname of Buck, and he hated country music. And Dwayne Sparks, who we called U-Haul, that was his nickname, was U-Haul. U-Haul he would just call him Buck because he hated country music, and they gave him that name for Buck Owens. So it just kind of stuck. I mean, everybody called him Buck. And Buck he was kind of a soft, pudgy kid, man. I mean, he was very intelligent, real smart. You could talk computers with him and technology all day, and he was on top of that. But, he wasn't super athletic. He wasn't fast. He was the slowest dude to ever hit 820 in a World Series. I'll guarantee you that. He wasn't going to beat anything out, but that dude, his sense of timing was amazing. He could crush the ball. I mean, I'm telling you, man, he had a stretch in 1993 where nobody could get him out. He was a dead pull hitter, and he was going to hit the ball on a dead, he was going to be one zone from the line on a 6 zone. That's where he was going to be. And we had teams move their entire defense, not only in left field, but on the line, just zippered down. And he would hit it right through him, man. I mean, he was a beast. And it was funny, man, because he kind of, didn't look very tough. He looked like you could take his lunch money without much of a fight. But Richie, can I just tell you, man, when the dude had a bat in his hand and he was standing in the box, he looked like a giant, man. He looked like a badass. You know what I mean? He was just I can't explain. It changed him. You know, when he had the bat in his hand, all of a sudden he was the boss, and he was kind of the whipping boy. You know, for the Blackhawks. I mean, you know, the dudes on the team that could wrestle, they rolled him up all the time because you know,
Right. Right.
yeah. But man, he was an amazing hitter. From an opponent standpoint, Roy Eubanks is an old name that some people may have. Well, you got to play with him, I think, in 2011.
Right.
He was a teammate. He joined in with us, but he was back in the day, back in the 80s. He was a linebacker that could run basically, and he could knock the crud out of a ball. He was super consistent. He was definitely a worthy opponent to play against. He won multiple MVPs, and he wasn't super fast, but his base running, it never strayed. He didn't miss bases. He ran straight to it. You know, he was really good. You know, there are a whole bunch of names, you know, that were kind of before, you know, the 2000, you know, the 2005 time frame. You know, that dudes that could pound the ball. You know, Dave Smolka with Chicago, he won the MVP in 1990. He was a great hitter. Dan Green was a great hitter. It's a dude that could hit that wasn't fast. You know, Danny Fabiano, everybody knows that guy. He was an amazing hitter. I've got back when the bases were 90 feet. I mean, and he was in his prime. He was nearly impossible to get out. You know, when when he hit the ball, he could hit the ball. Honestly, I've got video of him hitting the ball, and he actually got to the base right when the ball landed, if not beat it. You know, and I've got it on video, and he was a tough out. But those are the guys that really came to mind. I guess what a lot of people don't know is that, you know, back a long time ago, you know, teams didn't have 6 good defenders like they do now. I mean, the players that changed this game so much. It used to be kind of a pitcher's game where you could, you know, you could change the speed of the pitch to place the ball at the area of the field where they had their weakest player or players, because normally teams had maybe 2, 3, you know, and the Chicago teams, they kind of changed all that. I mean, they had, you know, they were able to field 6 really good defensive players, you know, with Clint Woodard, Cliff Woodard, Dan Green, Chris DiStefano, and then they had, you know, they had the defense that they could cover the entire field, Rennell Robinson, and they kind of changed that. And then the Dogs came around, you know, after Austin made that run, and they made it even better. It's now a player's game, and, you know, I don't think you're going to see – now you'll see the top hitters stay to the top, but I don't know if you'll see those dominant years like Stambaugh had, like, you know, like Parker had way back then, where players would just, you know, they're hitting 850 and stuff like that. And I can see people having years like that. I just don't know if we'll be able to see them have multiple years like that anymore. But, you know, because it's such the outfielders now are just incredible. I mean, from Bueller with the Thunder to they got man. I mean, they're just gunning folks. It's tough. Yeah. And you, man, and you're a great outfielder, Richie. I mean, you make plays like that. I mean, there's so many players that can do that now. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, I'm super excited that a lot of our players are starting to become a lot better defenders. Ricky Rizuka kind of stepped up last year and played all over the field. I enjoy definitely playing in the back now, and it's going to take 3 to 5 putouts, I believe, in the back row to take that championship. And it's my thought that, you know, in his 4th year here, Aaron Almanza will be making some of those plays.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, Aaron Almanza, when, you know, his first year, if he got near a ball, man, it was awesome. You know, and then the second year, he started getting to him, and then last year he was started making plays, and this year, I mean, he's on it now. He's a real life defender, out there in the outfield. He's put in the work, and he looks good now.
All right, man, we're kind of coming to the close. If you want to kind of plug anything you want to plug, final thoughts you might have on this sport that we both love.
I guess, a couple of things. I have this irrational love for Beepball, and I don't know if I can explain it. I can tell you this, the game is fun enough as is that it would stand on its own, but it goes beyond that, and I don't know if I can put my finger on it, but it's a family thing, even the people that I dislike, I don't get to see them, except for once a year, I kind of miss even the dudes that we play against, that are opponents, and the game is good enough to stand on its own, and I love the game itself, but it goes beyond that. It's the family part of it, and it's hard. I mean, from a sportsman perspective, it's the World Series of Beat Baseball is the only thing that matters. Really, everything you do all year long is for that end of that World Series of Beat Ball, and it's such a it's 5 days of beat ball, but it's so much more precious than that because everything matters. Every piece of that matters, and I'm not sure. I guess if you're, look in the NBA, you cannot make the playoffs without winning a certain number of games. Period. So you can say that, maybe your team's going to be in the finals or whatever, but in beat ball, I mean, everything you do is for that one or that 5 day period. And so it's really precious. Every pitch, every batter, every put out is really pretty precious. And I think that's part of it. It's so hard, and I think that's what makes it so great, Richie. I mean, I think it's unique in that respect. Let's see. The other thing, beat ball. I keep trying to figure out why we haven't made it big. You know what I mean? I guess because you see Special Olympics stuff, that get a lot of media coverage, and you see, all these things. And I've over the last 30 years, I've racked my brain trying to figure out how to make this big. You know what I mean? And I don't want to sound defeatist or anything, but I just don't think it's going to be any more than what it is, Richie, for the simple fact that you guys don't look like you need any help. I mean, when you guys get out there and play, y'all don't look like you need any help. You know what I mean? Does that make any sense? Because, you guys get out in the field and you do things that are incredible. I'm a sighted guy, and I'm relatively athletic, but I can't do that stuff. I watch the stuff that you guys do, and then it comes out on CBS, and then you wonder if it's counterproductive. You guys doing all this amazing stuff, making diving plays, knocking a crap out of the ball, running to the base in 5 seconds, knocking it down, jumping around, and what you guys do is so amazing that you just don't look like y'all need it. It looks like you guys got it already. You know what I mean? So I don't, that's the one thing that I've learned over the last few years. I don't know if it's going to ever be anything other than what it is right now.
And I think that's the thing about beat baseball is that, sure, we do need help to look that good because we need sighted teammates to put the ball in the right spot. We need good calls on the field for spotting. And that's what makes this one of the most unique adapted sports. But yeah, when people are seeing it on TV or come to a game, it really does look like we have it all together. But I witnessed, on the just recently conducting a pickup game with the new team in Las Vegas is, they had ill-equipped bases. They didn't really know the rules really well. They're still walking in a line, like in a trained fashion, out into the field. And so, yeah, there are teams that need help. There are definitely strides to be made in independence and confidence levels within our own players who are blind and dealing with that. And I think that's an internal political structure thing that we're going to just have to figure out in the long run. And we're just happy that we have good pitchers like you, good teammates like you, sighted people who do believe in us and believe in this sport. And together we're going to have to figure out that dialogue that it is, no, we don't have it all figured out as a sport. You know, equipment is expensive, balls are expensive, travel is expensive. The majority of all the blind people still, you know, I think a lot of us do have jobs and work, and but some of us still scrape along to try to get there and are dealing with discrimination, dealing with, being underemployed, things like that. Those are some of the stories that probably need to come out so that, sure, we could run to a base, hit a ball, lift some weights, and have a smile on our face and, look good athletically, but that doesn't mean that we have it all together. Well, speaking on that, who do you think is going to have it all together? I know you care about every game that we play, but you like to watch Beat Baseball at the World Series, check out cool teams. You know, now that Chicago's kind of going down, Austin has some injuries. Who are you excited to watch at this World Series?
I think Boston is a good team. I mean, they kind of had a down year last year, but I look for them to bounce back. They're obviously going to be top 5, top 4, top 3 if they can, they can get some breaks. But I think they're going to be really tough to beat. That's a good team. This Philly Fire team is interesting. Well, they've got some names on there, and I don't think they're. I think they're gonna. They have the ability to surprise some teams. I mean, I guess I'll just leave it at that. From Texas, Tyler is actually. They've got the ability to make a big jump. LZ gets better every year pitching, and they've got some athletes now. And they've got some dudes, and everybody knows Ronald Jordan, that he can pound the crap out of the ball. But they've got more than that. They've got some decent defense, and of course, we never know what they're going to show up with. But I have a feeling that they're gonna make kind of a jump, and look, I mean, I was really wrong about the Dominican team in Florida. I expected them to do better. I'm going to be honest with you, those guys bleed, baseball down there. I'd be surprised if they're not successful, if not this year, then in coming years. But, you got the top teams, you got the Thunders, you got the Edges, you got the Heats, man, they're going to be up there, fighting it out. So I don't know if they'll be, between them and Boston, I'm not sure there's going to be any big surprises in the top 6, man. I mean, what do you think?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. We will definitely be talking about my thoughts on what's going to be happening at the World Series, what teams I feel will surpass and make some jumps into what is now kind of an open top 8, I believe. And we'll be talking about that here in the next few podcasts. But man, I really appreciate this talk. You're raising a great daughter. She gave a great interview. I hear that she said that you might have some more information about her, that she might not just be a scorekeeper.
She pitched in practice the other day. I don't know if you heard, but we went, I got 3 players and she got 4, and she got 5 strikes and we got 3 in the squeaker ball game, and she won 2-1 in 2 innings. She wouldn't shut her mouth, so I just after that she wasn't too bad, but Rod was unbearable, man. He just wouldn't shut up, dude. So she's ready, man. Richie, if we can do it next year, we need to take 2 teams to a little tournament.
Dude, I'd have hit off another Simpson, no problem. I'll be on Sarah's team. I'll be leadoff. Again, my friend, thanks for being here for us, being here on the podcast, pitching to us. We love you so much. From the bottom of our hearts to the top of our bats. You've been listening to the Set Ready Ball, the Jet Life podcast. Jet Life. Peace out, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for doing